Hey, got a little golden hour filming opportunity right here. Heading out of Jacksonville down to Tampa for Spookala, April 2025. First horror con I've made it to this year. A little stressful leaving because I packed everything up. I thought I was good to go. I got almost out of town and then realized that I completely forgot my weapons for my costume. My machete and the severed Freddy arm were just sitting on the counter of my kitchen. So I had to quickly go back and fight through traffic 2 different times to get those. But hopefully I've got everything else, and I'm going to be in Tampa probably about 10 o'clock tonight, and then meeting my friends out there, and then we'll be going to the con in the morning. Super excited for this one. In a rarity, I actually have like pre-ordered items for the con. I have 2 things for David Dastmalchian. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I keep jokingly calling him David Dalmatian, and I keep accidentally wanting to call him that for real. But I have the Late Night with the Devil photo op with him, as well as one of the autograph bundles. And then I definitely want to get an autograph from the guy who played the miner in the original My Bloody Valentine. I have an 8x10 from him, but I really want to get to meet him in person, so I didn't get to meet him for that autograph. And my buddy grabbed the helmet off of the life-size Harry Warden that I have. It's actually at his tattoo shop, and I'm going to go ahead and get that signed as well. So very excited. Hopefully tomorrow is a successful day. So on Saturday, we got to the con at about noon, and the first thing we ended up doing was heading over to the booth of Jason Patric from The Lost Boys, but also from Executioner, our independent horror film. Our director of photography put together some clips from the movie that we wanted to show Jason, including a bit of his scenes, since we really hadn't seen him since we filmed with him. My buddy Rob had the Trick or Treat Studios, I don't know what they call them, the hard plastic, like fancy vacuum form masks they've been doing of both Michael and David from Lost Boys, so he had Jason sign the Michael one. Jason kind of mentioned to us that he was about to leave for the day, so it was good timing on our part, and it looks like he actually ended up leaving the con shortly after. Next door to him was Kiefer Sutherland, and as we were walking by, I noticed a sign that said, "Kiefer's only here till 1 p.m., so you might want to jump in if you're going to do them." Jump in now? Since he's here till 1 p.m., it's almost 12:30. What? It's almost 12:30, so this is going to come back, sign, and go. So I told Rob that if you wanted to get these things signed, we probably should get in line then. We then kind of made a quick loop around the autograph area. On the other side was another member of the Executioner cast with Shotzi Blackheart from WWE. So I said hi to her. And then I got my first of 2 autographs for the day. And that was Peter Cowper, who played the miner in the 1981 My Bloody Valentine. I think it was around COVID time when there weren't a lot of cons happening. A company was doing like private signings and had done some autographs with him. So I have an 8x10 from him signed, but I love that movie. I had the life-size Harry Warden. I've watched that movie a billion times now, and I really wanted to meet the guy in person. How's it going? Yeah, I've got, let me show you. I got the life-size of the costume.
Oh, super.
During COVID, I was bored, so I put the whole thing, oh shoot. Of course I lose the picture as soon as I go to pull it up, sorry. So yeah, like the original rebreather and all that stuff on there. So figured I'd have you sign the helmet.
Where'd you get the gloves?
I think they were just like, yeah, like Darth Vader gloves off Amazon, honestly.
Oh, really?
Are they similar? I don't know.
Yeah. They got the seam down there in the corner. No. Yep.
And after the mask, everything else.
Did you get this pickaxe from Chuck Ryan?
I did, yep. Yeah, I was going to ask if that's what yours was.
Oh, he's making the whole suit for me.
Oh, sick.
Because I'm going to do photo ops from now on in.
Oh, man.
Yeah, as the miner.
Well, hopefully you come back around here to do that, because I'd love to get one of those.
Well, we'll see. I always like to bug my agent, you know. Because, you know, the 90s films on are sort of a draw point. So the older film is like, kind of hard to dress them sometimes.
I feel like it's kind of getting rediscovered. Like, I feel like people miss out on.
Yeah,
I wasn't even alive, but like people are,
a lot of younger people come to this table and have seen it and they go, whoa, you know.
I feel like it's right up there with like the Friday the 13th and stuff that are coming out around the time. Like it's a good ass movie.
Yeah. Do you want me to sign the top of that? Or?
If you could do maybe the side, if you have like a red pen or something.
Or, you know, gold or silver works better. Red is sort of dark.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Well, I can see. Well, it might work, eh?
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
To your name or just my
Phil.
name?
Phil.
Awesome.
I love it. Thank you. I always forget where it is on my arm, but glad you're there as well.
Oh, cool. That's pretty cool.
So I had him sign the helmet that goes on my life-size display. It worked out perfectly. He ended up signing the side of it with red ink, which just fits perfectly on theme. And it has To Phil, Be Mine, Peter Cowper, the Miner. It was some bloody hearts, or hearts turning into blood drops, I guess. But very, very cool. Very glad to add this to the collection. I figured this was an easy thing to get signed, because either I could put it right back on the life-size display, or I can actually just keep this in like a shadow box or something and get another MSA Comfo cap, put it back on that display after I weather it up, and have that, you know, be more true to life. At this point, we had several kind of bulky, awkward items that were signed, so we decided to bring them back to the truck, drop those off, and then kind of just go and walk the vendor hall for a while. We ran into our buddy Tyler, who has done behind-the-scenes photography for Executioner for us, as well as just a very talented cosplay photographer in general. He ended up coming along with us as we went through the halls. And honestly, my pickups at this con fit a very specific theme. So I went on a VHS buying binge. Ended up picking up 4 different kaiju films, 3 of which were from one booth and all Godzilla. Picked up Godzilla 1985, Son of Godzilla, and Godzilla vs. Biollante, only to realize that my checklist I keep on my phone was out of date and I already had Biollante in my collection and a nicer copy in my collection. But the other 2 I did need, so those were good pickups. At that same booth, I actually picked up a VHS copy of the Lucio Fulci film, Don't Torture a Duckling. My friends are way into the VHS stuff. They have hundreds of them, I think. I don't need to go that far. I basically have 3 main things that I try to collect. One being kaiju films, the other being the silver top Universal Monster films, and the third being Italian horror. So I try to keep it limited to those categories for the most part. We also stopped by Brainbuster Video. I picked up a VHS my friend had asked me to pick up for him. And while there, I did pick something up for myself for later in the day. And I'll skip ahead because this was actually the very end of the day, but I did find another booth that had a VHS copy of Mothra, so I picked that up as well. So I will say, walking around the con floor, I did notice it felt a little different than normal at this con. I feel like there was fewer cosplayers than I normally see, especially for a Saturday. There definitely were a few, but it wasn't as jam-packed full of cosplayers as I've seen it sometimes. And I'm trying to think if maybe the October show usually is more populated or not. Not really sure. The other thing we noticed is that in previous years they had a lot more like seating areas, like tables and things. And this time like a whole section that was usually full of tables near a food court area was completely just devoid of them. I should mention Spookala was at the Tampa Bay Fairgrounds, in the location they've been using ever since they moved to Tampa, and I like the location a lot. The venue is decently sized for the con. I did prefer like the first time they had there, where they had a little bit of extra space, a second little area off to the side was opened up that was used for the panel area as well as the guests, because it does feel a little cramped just in the one big room. They basically now have the panel area in the middle of the vendor hall, or like off to one side, but like in that space. And it is nice. One of my favorite things about the original Ocala location was that everything was in one room. But that was a much larger hall, and it worked really well having the panels all at one end, having the autographs all at the other end, and then having the vendors completely in between. And with this, it just feels like it's a little messy of people kind of stepping over each other depending on where you're trying to go. I do also really like that they have a bunch of food trucks outside. I don't know if that's Spookala itself or if it is a venue that does that, but there's some like, you know, food vendors inside, like built into the con space, but also some food trucks outside to give you a good variety of things to get for snacks or whatever. So we got most of the way through walking through the vendor area for at least one pass, and it got to be around 3 o'clock, and I decided I needed to go get ready for my photo op that I prepaid for with David Dastmalchian. And I probably left way too early. And this is like part 1 of the series of mistakes I made in this small period of time. Well, the first part isn't a mistake. I was going back and forth on whether I wanted to do the photo op in costume or out of costume. I had my Freddy vs. Jason Voorhees costume with me, and one person told me I should do it just in normal clothes, And then I had two people kind of telling me to do it in costume, as well as that's kind of what I was feeling, so I went that direction. But that meant I needed to go back out to the car, drop my stuff off, and put the costume on. It also meant that I had to go through security again to do like a weapon check, because I hadn't had that marked off yet. And I haven't done a professional photo op at a con in a long time, and I don't think I've ever done one at Spookala, so I wasn't really sure how it was going to work. In the past, and I think this was all with Froggy's photos back in the day, so it's been a minute, I would sometimes show up for a photo shoot, I think a Spooky Empire usually, when it was this posted time it was supposed to happen, and they'd be on last call. Like, it happened to me multiple times that, like, they gave, like, you know, a half-hour window, but I got there at the beginning of the window and it was almost over. And I wasn't really sure if it was working that way here with this photographer at this con, so I tried to be there closer to 3 than to 3:30 when it was scheduled. Went to the truck, got enough of my costume on to wear in basically the jacket, the shirt, I had the pants on already, the platform boots, and then I kind of had to carry everything else in. Because I got my wristband earlier in the day, and I had 2 different gloves that go over my hand, I had to make sure I had my hand gloveless to get in the gate. I also knew there was like no chance I was going to walk in platform boots with a limited eyesight of that silicone mask without causing terrible issues for myself, so I left that off as well. Once I got into the photo area, I got in line. They basically had like multiple lines based on what time you got there. There was already one full one. I was kind of towards the front of the second one. So I was thinking I didn't really have a lot of time, so I hurried up and put the rest of the costume bits on. With the exception of my final layer of gloves, because I still needed to show my phone to have a QR code scanned for my ticket for the photo op. So I'm sitting there in the line, trying to awkwardly hold like my phone, my machete, and my gloves, and an item I was going to get signed at the autograph session that was directly after the photo op. I think I dropped the item I was holding multiple times. Thankfully, people helped me pick it up. It was really hard to bend down and pick them up in the boots I was wearing. And with my limited visibility, I was just really worried that somebody's gonna be like sitting down with their hand on the floor near me. I was gonna accidentally stomp on their fingers or something. And as I'm sitting there waiting, I'm just like, man, I can't really see. And I'd cut out the eye of the silicone mask a little bit, but I was really nervous to go too far with it. But it was still so tight, I think it was hitting my eyelashes or whatever it was doing. And basically I could not like focus my vision out of that eye. So I could kind of see a little bit, but everything was mostly blurry. Every so often I'd be able to like focus, but then it would just go back to being blurry as soon as I kind of blinked or anything. And then, you know, I can't really hear with that on. Basically, I don't even think there's ear holes in that silicone mask, which I may change, but like all the sound I could hear was really coming from like the eye and nose holes. And then when I put the hockey mask over that, it made it even more limited. So I felt like I was just sitting there in this little like sensory deprivation chamber waiting to go in for the photo. And right as I was thinking, okay, it's been a minute, like it's taking longer than I thought it was going to, I'm kind of starting to not feel great wearing this, the line started moving. So scanned my QR code, went through, stumbled the best I could through everything, got up to it. The set for the photo op was a recreation of the Night Owl set from Late Night with the Devil. It looked really cool. I awkwardly had to step up onto the little stage, trying to not fall over in those boots, and then sit down in the chair next to David. And from what little I could hear, it sounded like he was really excited that Jason Voorhees just sat down next to him on the set of his talk show. When I finally saw the picture, I saw he was, you know, kind of acting along with it. And I think I heard him say, "Please come by my table later." But like any photo op at a con, it was very quick. Really happy with this. Kind of feel like I was able to channel a little bit of the Kane Hodder on Arsenio Hall show, and I'm just really thrilled with how it came out. But as soon as I got back to where the printers were to print off the photos, I ripped those masks off my face because I was dying. So because I wasn't feeling great after that, I went back outside to go to one of the food trucks to try to get something to eat and drink real quick. And that was probably the right decision to make until I got out there, looked at the time, and was like, oh, well, it's the time that the autograph session is supposed to start. I should really get over there. Not thinking that there was still like a lot of people going through that photo op line, and I probably had plenty of time to get something. But I walked back to the other side of the venue where the autograph area was and went to go walk through the door, and then all of a sudden I felt myself leaning really far over to one side. When walking through the door, best I can determine, there is like kind of a little ramp going up. Not a very tall ramp at all, like maybe like an inch tops, but it has a different texture than the rest of the ground, and I must have snagged the boot or whatever. And all the work I did on the platform boots for this, none of that let me down. What let me down was the sole of the shoe itself ripped out of itself. So the whole side of the boot went off to the side, and then my foot went straight to the ground in just the top part of the boot. So thankfully, right by the doorway, there was a chair, and I was able to kind of put all my stuff down, sit down, and try to rework my shoe a little bit so that I could actually stand back up on it. And I collected all my stuff, and at this point, I wasn't really confident to lift that foot up off the ground far, worried that it would swing back out and I'd land back on the lower part of the boot and then maybe fall or something, which I definitely don't want to do in the middle of a con floor. So I kind of just dragged that foot behind me as I walked. So I got into line for David's autograph, and of course, yeah, he's not there yet. He's still off doing the photo op. I am towards the back of the line. I think only 1 or 2 people got in line behind me because there was a limited session of autographs that was supposed to happen. So I was just kind of waiting, and eventually I moved my foot the wrong way, and I did slip back over onto the bottom part of the shoe. I was able to kind of correct it a little bit later, but it was definitely annoying to sit there and walk in it. Thankfully, my friends walked by me at this time. They were wanting to go do a photo shoot outside. Tyler was going to take photos of Rob and I in costume. I told them that I kind of had to do this line because I'd already paid for it, and the costume was kind of falling apart. So, just go do photos of Rob, and I'll catch up with you guys later. Thankfully, they gave me a Coke to drink, so I was able to kind of recover a little bit. And they actually brought me a water after I was out of that line, so definitely appreciate them doing that for me. But David's stuff was all a bundle. You had to order a bundle going into this. You had to pre-order it. You couldn't actually go at the con and get your autographs. They sold out, I believe. It actually was pretty affordable for what it is. For $60, you got 3 items. You either got a set of comic books or a graphic novel. I opted for the graphic novel. I have not read it yet or anything, but I guess he was actually a writer on this. You also got a pre-signed 8x10. I don't know why pre-signed. I don't know, it was just to keep the line moving or what it was. But I did end up getting an 8x10 signed by him, or pre-signed by him. And then we were allowed 1 item of our own to get signed. So the item I picked up at Brainbuster earlier was one of their Late Night with the Devil VHSs. So I took the insert out of this and had him sign that. So it says, Phil, Night Owls Forever, and then he signed it. Problem is, I dropped this 8 times while I was waiting in line. Maybe not 8, but I dropped it a lot. The case itself cracked a little bit. The tape fell out one time for sure. So I don't even know if this thing's going to play. Thankfully, I could probably order another copy from Brainbuster and just swap the insert on it if this thing is totally busted. But still a cool thing I thought to get signed. I want to get that Umbrella VHS that has the TV cut of the movie, but I just wasn't able to order that in time, and they were out of stock and go for a lot of money now. So I got up to him, I showed him the photo op thing. I was like, oh yeah, it's the Jason that came up to you in the photo op. He was like, oh cool, it's so cool, costume's great. Do you want to put it back on and we can take a photo together on my phone? And I was like, look, I'd love to, but I am wiped out from wearing that thing. I really just don't feel like I could put it back on right now. He's like, okay, could you just put the hockey mask on? I'm like, yeah, I could do that. So I put the hockey mask on over my normal face and took a photo with him. So probably not as good of a photo, probably nothing good at all, honestly, but it was really cool that he wanted that photo and everything. I definitely felt very cool. It's actually so funny because there's so much time him talking about that. I didn't really get to ask him anything or tell him anything while he was saying my item. I didn't really have anything profound to ask or say, but it was just kind of funny how chaotic that ended up being. Especially with me having to drag my foot behind me the whole time. But after that, went back to my truck, got changed back into relatively normal clothes, and then we all went back in and kind of did one more sweep of the vendor room floor, one more walk around, talked to some more people. I think at the end of the night we ended up just sitting in the middle of the floor where the autograph area was when it was mostly empty, and Corey Taylor was off playing his acoustic set, which is funny because that is the most media coverage I've ever seen Spookala get. All the metal outlets and stuff I've seen posting about Corey Taylor plays Chapel Roan song acoustic at a horror convention. It's okay, cool. I guess I was there for that. Still not as cool as I ran to, what do they call it, the Buc-ee's Beatdown after Rockville one year, where I pulled in the Buc-ee's to go get something to drink, and there was a show going on in the parking lot that wasn't really supposed to be happening. But I guess, yeah, cool, I was there for Slapnuts acoustic, I guess, I don't know. But yeah, overall, a very fun con. I kind of wish I had done 2 days of Spookala this year instead of just one. I think I could have done everything I wanted to do in one day, but I did end up feeling a little rushed, mostly because of the pre-ordered things that I decided to do. So I think it would have been nice to have like an autograph, vendor room day, and then like a cosplay day, which we've done in the past when we've been there for the weekend. We've had just, you know, a day where we're not really worrying about anything. We're just going to walk around in costume and hang out and have fun, and then doing all the other con activities other days. So I think that probably would have been the nicer option this time, but this worked out. Probably is also beneficial that we didn't push it too far because there's a lot going on this month. I'm going to be traveling quite a bit, and there's another big Florida horror con at the end of June anyway, so in just a couple more months I will get to do this all over again. And maybe I'll have figured out the costume a little better. I feel like this Freddy vs. Jason is cursed. Like, I know it is just gonna be a heavy, hot costume, but like, it was just brutal, and the weather on the day ended up going up to like 91 degrees, and changing into the costume out in the sun, I was already baking before I even got in the venue, so I gotta figure out something. Maybe I just need to ditch the latex spine and let myself have a little bit of heat relief in at least that part. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But yeah, Spooky Empire has Ken Kersinger going, so like, it would be cool to bring this costume back out. Also, no clue if I'm going to be going to that one alone or with friends. So honestly, I got to figure out if I'm even going to be able to navigate a con like that if I'm by myself. But that's enough rambling and enough for this one. I will see you all in the next one. Later.